Lonely Lumberjack took in a pregnant girl sold by her brother, found more than a family. He didn't mean to buy her. Not like cattle. Not like whiskey. Not like the rusted plow he traded 2 mules for last spring. But when Silas Granger shoved her off the back of his buckboard into the dust outside the Broken Spur Saloon, Elias Boone didn't flinch. He just reached into his pocket and counted out 12 silver dollars. 12. Like the months she'd carried that child. Like the number of scars on his own back from a logging accident no one ever asked about. The coins clinked into Silas's palm like a death knell. And the girl? She didn't cry. Didn't beg. Just stared at the ground, fingers curled around the hem of a dress too thin for October, belly round as a flour sack, eyes hollow as a dried-up well. Silas grinned, yellow teeth glinting under the setting sun. She's yours, Lumberjack. Name's Lottie. Don't expect much. She don't talk. Don't smile. Don't even blink much. He spat tobacco juice near her boot. But she's clean. And the baby ain't mine. That's worth the coin, ain't it? Elias didn't answer. Just nodded. Took her elbow, gentle, like lifting a bird with a broken wing, and led her away from the saloon's flickering lanterns, past the drunkards and the card sharks, past the smell of sweat and spilled beer, toward the edge of town where his cabin sat crooked under a sky full of stars. Behind them, Silas laughed. A sound like a coyote chewing on bone. The wind howled through the hollows. She didn't speak for 3 days. Not when he gave her stew thick with rabbit and wild onions. Not when he laid out his only spare blanket by the hearth. Not when he turned his back to stoke the fire, giving her space like you'd give a skittish mare. He watched her from the corner of his eye, the way her hands trembled when she ate, the way she flinched at loud noises, the way she'd stare at the fire like it held answers to questions no one dared ask. On the 4th morning, she whispered one word. Water. He brought her the whole canteen. She drank like she'd crossed a desert. Then she looked at him, really looked, and said, "Why?" Elias wiped sawdust from his beard. Didn't have a reason not to. She didn't believe him. He could see it in the tightness of her jaw. In the way her fingers curled around the canteen like it might vanish. He didn't blame her. Men like Silas Granger made liars out of kindness. Made saints out of sinners just by existing. That night, he heard her crying. Soft. Muffled. Like she was swallowing the sound before it could escape. He didn't go to her. Just sat by the window, whittling a piece of pine into nothing, listening to the coyotes sing to the moon. A gunshot cracked the silence, far off. Probably drunks. Probably nothing. Probably Silas. Winter came early that year. Snow fell like ash over the pines. The creek froze solid by November. Elias chopped wood until his hands bled, stacked it high against the cabin wall, then chopped more. Lottie moved slow, heavy with the child, but she helped. Swept floors. Mended socks. Made soup from bones and roots. She still didn't smile. But sometimes, when she thought he wasn't looking, she'd rest her hand on her belly and hum, low and sweet, like a lullaby half-remembered. One evening, as firelight danced across the walls, she asked, "What'll you name it?" He almost dropped his whittling knife. "Name?" he echoed. "The baby. If it's a boy. Or a girl. You're the only father it'll know." He stared into the flames. Saw his own father's face there, hard, silent, gone before Elias turned 10. Saw the logging camp foreman who broke his ribs for dropping a timber. Saw the preacher who told him God only loved men who swung axes straight and hearts clean. "I ain't good with names," he muttered. She nodded. Like she expected that. Then, quiet as snowfall, she said, "I was gonna call her Mercy." He looked up. "Mercy," he repeated. She met his eyes. For the first time, there was something there. Not hope. Not yet. But maybe the ghost of it. If it's a girl. He nodded. Mercy it is. Outside, the wind moaned through the pines. Far off, a church bell tolled, though there hadn't been a church in these parts for 10 years. Silas Granger rode into town on a Thursday. Snow still clung to the rooftops. Smoke curled from chimneys. Children threw snowballs near the general store. And there he was, tall in the saddle, duster flapping like crow wings, hat pulled low, eyes scanning the street like a hawk hunting mice. He reined up outside the saloon, dismounted slow, like he owned the dirt beneath his boots. Men stepped aside. Women pulled their shawls tighter. Even the dogs went quiet. Elias saw him from the window of the mercantile, where he was buying salt and lamp oil. His gut clenched. Cold sweat prickled his neck. He paid quick, muttered thanks, and hurried home. Lottie was hanging laundry in the yard, bundled in his old coat, cheeks pink from the cold. When she saw him coming fast, she froze. "He's here," Elias said, low. She didn't ask who. Just dropped the wet sheet into the snow. Her hand flew to her belly. That night, they barred the door. Piled chairs against it. Elias cleaned his rifle, the old Winchester he'd carried since the war, and laid it across his lap by the fire. Lottie sat in the rocking chair, knitting tiny socks, her needles clicking like a clock counting down. Midnight came. Then 1. Then 2. No hoofbeats. No pounding fists. Just silence. And then, a whisper of movement outside. A creak of snow under boot leather. A shadow passing the frosted window. Elias stood. Rifle ready. The doorknob rattled. Lottie stopped breathing. A voice, smooth as poisoned honey, called through the wood. "Lottie? You in there, darlin'? Brought you somethin' pretty." Silas. Elias didn't answer. Just pressed the barrel to the door crack. Silas chuckled. "Ah, come on. Ain't no need for that. I just wanna see my sister. Make sure she's comfortable." Lottie's fingers dug into the arms of the chair. Silas's voice dropped, sweet and venomous. "You tell that lumberjack, he's keepin' what's mine. And men who steal from Silas Granger, they don't live to see spring." Boots crunched away. The fire popped. Lottie whispered, "He'll come back." Elias nodded. "I know." Christmas Eve, snow fell soft and silent. They had no tree. No gifts. No carols. Just stew and candles and the sound of Lottie's humming as she rocked in her chair, belly so big now she could barely stand. Elias carved a wooden rattle, smooth as river stone, painted with berry juice. He hid it under his pillow. Would give it to her tomorrow. If there was a tomorrow. He was stoking the fire when she gasped. He turned. Her face was white. Her hands clutched her middle. Between her fingers, dark red bloomed like a rose on wool. "The baby," she choked. "It's coming. Now. In the snow. In the silence. With Silas Granger somewhere out there, hunting." Elias moved fast. Boiled water. Tore sheets. Lit every candle. Sent prayers skyward he hadn't spoken since he was a boy. Lottie screamed once, sharp, wild, animal, then bit down on a leather strap so hard her teeth left marks. Hours passed. Blood soaked the blankets. Sweat dripped from Elias's brow. The wind screamed like a woman in labor. And then, a cry. Tiny. Fierce. Alive. A girl. Mercy. Elias wrapped her in his cleanest shirt, placed her in Lottie's trembling arms. The mother wept, silent, shaking tears. The baby blinked up at the firelight, tiny fists curled like promises. For one moment, just one, the world felt soft. Then, hoofbeats. Fast. Hard. Closer. Elias grabbed his rifle. Peered out the frosted window. 3 riders. Silas in front. Lantern light glinted off his revolver. They found us, Elias whispered. Lottie clutched Mercy to her chest. Don't let him take her. Elias loaded the Winchester. He won't. Outside, Silas's voice rang through the night. Open up, Boone. Got a present for the new daddy. A gunshot shattered the window. Glass rained down. Candle flames snuffed out. Darkness swallowed the cabin. Elias fired blind through the broken pane. A horse screamed. A man cursed. Then, silence. He crept to the door. Peeked through the crack. Silas stood in the snow, lantern in one hand, pistol in the other. 2 men flanked him, hired guns, faces hard as flint. One clutched his shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers. The other stared at the cabin like he was already counting his pay. Come on out, Lumberjack. Silas called. Ain't gotta be ugly. Just hand over the girl and the brat. We'll ride on. You can go back to choppin' trees. Elias didn't answer. Just chambered another round. Lottie whispered behind him, the root cellar. He turned. She was already moving, slow, pained, but steady, toward the trapdoor beneath the rug. She lifted it with one hand, cradling Mercy in the other. Go, she breathed. Hide her. I'll hold them off. No, he hissed. She looked at him, eyes fierce, voice steel. You swore you'd protect her. Do it. He wanted to argue. To carry them both down. To fight till his last breath. But the hoofbeats circled the cabin. Boots thudded on the porch. The door shuddered under a heavy kick. He grabbed Mercy. Kissed Lottie's forehead, fast, desperate. Then dropped into the cellar, pulling the door shut above him. Darkness. Damp earth. The smell of potatoes and mold. Above, the door burst open. Silas's laugh slithered down the stairs. Well, well. Look who's playin' house. Elias crouched in the dark, Mercy warm against his chest, listening. Silas's boots clicked on the floorboards. Where's the baby, Lottie? Huh. Tucked her under the bed. In the woodbox. No answer. A slap. Sharp. Wet. Lottie cried out. Elias's fingers tightened on the rifle. Talk, Silas growled. She's gone, Lottie gasped. Rode out this morning. With a traitor. Bullshit. And Silas knew it. Another slap. Harder. You lyin' poor. You think I don't know you? You think I don't know every lie you ever told? A chair smashed. Glass shattered. Then, a gunshot. Elias's heart stopped. Silence. Then, Lottie's voice, weak but clear. You'll never touch her. Never. Silas chuckled. We'll see about that. Footsteps crossed the floor. Stopped above the cellar. Elias held his breath. The trapdoor creaked open. Lantern light spilled down, painting the dirt walls gold. Silas peered over the edge, revolver dangling from his fingers. Smiled. There you are. Elias raised the rifle. Silas didn't flinch. Just grinned wider. Go ahead, Lumberjack. Shoot me. Then my boys burn this place down with you and the brat inside. Your choice. Elias's finger trembled on the trigger. Mercy whimpered. Silas's smile faded. Hand her over. Now. Elias didn't move. Silas sighed. Fine. He stepped back. Shouted up the stairs. Tossed down the kerosene. A bottle clattered down the steps. Rolled to Elias's boot. Silas's face reappeared in the square of light. 10 seconds. Then we light it. Elias looked at Mercy. Tiny. Perfect. Eyes wide with wonder, not fear. He closed his own eyes. Whispered, "Forgive me." Then, he stood. Raised his hands. Stepped into the light. They tied his wrists with rope rough as bark. Dragged him into the snow. Mercy wailed in Silas's arms, tiny fists waving at the cold. Lottie lay by the hearth, face bruised, lip split, one eye swollen shut. But she was alive. Watching. Silent. Fierce. Silas bounced Mercy in his arms like she was a sack of grain. Pretty little thing. Got your eyes, Lottie. Shame she'll grow up thinkin', some axe swingin', fools her daddy. Elias strained against the ropes. Let them go. Take me. Silas laughed. Oh, I'm talking, you too. Got a special place for men who cross me. Out near Coyote Ridge. Real scenic. Lots of rocks. Good view. He nodded to his men. Tie the girl to the saddle. We ride at dawn. One thug grabbed Lottie by the arm. She didn't fight. Just stared at Mercy, memorizing her. Burning her into her soul. As they hauled Elias toward the horses, he locked eyes with Lottie. One look. That's all. In it, apology. Love. Rage. Promise. She nodded. Almost imperceptible. He knew what it meant. Wait. Watch. Survive. The horses snorted. The men mounted. Silas settled Mercy in front of him, her tiny cries lost in the wind. They rode into the night, east, toward the mountains, toward Coyote Ridge, toward whatever hell Silas had waiting. Behind them, the cabin stood silent. Smoke curled from the chimney. The root cellar door hung open, forgotten. And deep in the frozen earth, beneath the snow and the silence, a single wooden rattle lay hidden, painted red with berry juice, smooth as a promise. They rode for 2 days. No rest. No food. Just cold, hard saddle leather and the smell of sweat and gun oil. Elias's wrists bled. His lips cracked. His eyes burned. But he didn't beg. Didn't plead. Just watched the trail. Memorized every bend. Every rock. Every tree. Mercy cried less now. Too weak, maybe. Or too scared. Silas let her suck water from a canteen now and then. Didn't smile. Didn't coo. Just kept her close, like a bargaining chip. Like a trophy. Lottie rode behind one of the thugs, hands bound, face blank. But Elias saw the way her eyes darted. The way she noted the terrain. The way she watched Silas's hands, always near his gun. On the third morning, they camped by a frozen creek. Silas built a fire. Boiled coffee. Laughed with his men like they were on a picnic. Elias sat apart, ropes cutting into his skin, watching the steam rise from the pot. Lottie caught his eye. Nodded toward Silas's saddle, where his revolver hung, loose in the holster. Elias gave the smallest shake of his head. Not yet. Wait. The sun climbed. The ice on the creek glittered like broken glass. Silas stretched. Yawned. All right, boys. Rest's over. Ridge is just over that rise. We'll be there by noon. He stood. Stretched again. Turned his back to the fire, to warm his hands. That's when Lottie moved. Fast. Silent. Like a shadow given teeth. She lunged, not at Silas. Not at the gun. At the fire. She kicked the pot of boiling coffee. Scalding liquid arced through the air, straight into the face of the thug nearest her. He screamed. Clawed at his eyes. Chaos erupted. Elias threw himself sideways, into the snow, into the rocks, into the chance. Gunfire cracked. A bullet whizzed past his ear. Another tore through his sleeve. He rolled. Grabbed a rock. Hurled it at the second thug's knee. Bone snapped. The man howled. Silas spun, revolver up, but Lottie was already on him. Fingers like claws. Teeth like knives. She bit his wrist, hard. He roared. Fired wild. The bullet hit the creek ice. Shattered it. Water surged up, black, freezing, hungry. Silas staggered back, Lottie still clinging, still biting. Elias scrambled to his feet. Raced for Silas's horse, where Mercy lay bundled in a saddle blanket, crying weak cries. He grabbed her. Held her tight. Then, turned. Silas had thrown Lottie off. Wiped blood from his face. Raised his gun. Right at Elias. Right at Mercy. Shoulda stayed in your cabin, Lumberjack. Finger tightened on the trigger. Lottie screamed, "No!" and threw herself in front of the barrel. The gunshot echoed off the mountains. Lottie fell. Silas stared, stunned. Then snarled. "Stupid bitch." He raised the gun again. Elias didn't think. Just moved. He charged, Mercy clutched to his chest, straight at Silas. The gun fired. Pain exploded in Elias's shoulder. He didn't stop. Slammed into Silas. Knocked him back, into the broken ice. Black water swallowed them both. Cold. So cold. Elias gasped. Kicked. Fought for the surface. Silas thrashed beneath him, hands clawing, eyes wide with panic. Elias held Mercy high, above the water. Above the death. Then, he let go. Of everything. Of fear. Of mercy. Of hope. He drove his good arm down, hard, and shoved Silas under. Bubbles rose. Fingers scraped his leg. Then, nothing. Silence. Stillness. Elias broke the surface. Gasping. Bleeding. Shaking. He dragged himself onto the ice. Crawled. Collapsed. Mercy cried, loud, alive, furious. Lottie lay 10 feet away, blood staining the snow crimson. Elias crawled to her. Slid his hand under her head. Her eyes fluttered open. Saw him. Saw Mercy. Smiled. Weak. Broken. Beautiful. Mercy, she whispered. Then, her breath left her. Soft. Slow. Final. The wind howled. The baby cried. Elias held them both, one alive, one gone, and wept into the snow. Spring came late that year. The snow melted slow. The creek ran high. Wildflowers pushed through the thaw like tiny fists punching through earth. Elias buried Lottie under a pine tree, far from town, far from roads, far from men like Silas. He carved her headstone himself, rough pine, burned letters, Lottie she gave Mercy and asked none. He built a new cabin, bigger. Warmer. Near a stream where the water ran clean. Planted a garden. Fixed the roof. Hung a wind chime made from horseshoes. Mercy grew fast. Laughed loud. Crawled, then walked, then ran, barefoot through grass, chasing butterflies, singing nonsense songs only she understood. Elias taught her to whittle. To fish. To name the stars. Never told her about Silas. About the snow. About the blood. Let her think her mother died peaceful. In sleep. In love. Some truths, he figured, were heavier than a man should carry. Some graves were better left unopened. One evening, as firelight danced across Mercy's face, now 5, now bright-eyed, now humming that same lullaby Lottie used to hum, Elias handed her the wooden rattle he'd carved the night she was born. She turned it in her hands. Traced the berry-red paint. Smiled. Did Mama make this? Elias swallowed. Nodded. She loved you, he said. More than breath. More than sky. Mercy tucked the rattle into her pocket. Leaned against his knee. I love you too, Papa. He kissed her hair. Felt the weight of her trust. The ghost of Lottie's smile. Outside, the wind sighed through the pines. A train whistle echoed far off, lonely. Longing. Lingering. Elias closed his eyes. And for the first time in years, he let himself remember. Not the gunshot. Not the blood. Not the ice. Just her voice. Whispering one word. Water. Then, mercy. Then, love. The fire crackled. The stars wheeled. And somewhere, deep in the earth, beneath roots and rain and time, Lottie slept, finally free. Finally at peace. They say if you walk near that pine tree at dusk, you can hear a woman humming. Soft. Sweet. Unbroken. They say if you listen close, you'll hear a baby's laugh, carried on the wind, tangled in the pines. They say Elias Boone never chopped another tree. Just sat on his porch, whittling toys, watching Mercy grow, waiting for the day she'd ask the questions he prayed she never would. And when she did, he'd tell her the truth. All of it. Every scar. Every tear. Every act of mercy, given, stolen, earned. But not yet. Not today. Today, the sun shines. The creek sings. And Mercy runs barefoot through the grass, wooden rattle in hand, laughing like the world still knew. Like it still belongs to her. Like it still forgives. The wind howls through the hollows. A church bell tolls, though there's no church for miles. And deep in the earth, beneath roots and rain and time, something stirs. Not a ghost. Not a memory. But a promise. Kept. Paid in blood. Sealed in silence. Mercy.